Okay, so the next video in the first module of the Fundamentals of LUAU Scripting series is based on variables and data types of variables. This is probably the most important thing to learn right next to print from the last video, because essentially all programming will rely on this. So make sure you have output open, make sure you have Explorer open, maybe open properties too, but that's not necessarily needed right now. Go to server script service, insert object, right click on that, script, click, and we have our script. So a variable, in order to define a variable, you type local in all lowercase, because programming, computers are very specific about uppercase and lowercase most of the time. So type local in all lowercase, and then decide on a name. You don't have to worry too much about what the specific name is now, but I'll just call this my variable. So this will create a variable named my variable, but right now it has no value. Variables need values. So I can say equals 5, local my variable equals 5. So when I create a variable with local and then a variable name in a script, the script will store this variable as a reference to a piece of information. So if I were to type print my variable, then instead of printing something in speech marks, it's the computer will go, okay, I need to print whatever is in these brackets, and then it will see, okay, my variable, and then it will look up my variable and see up here, okay, my variable equals 5. So because my variable equals 5 and I am printing my variable, it's going to print out 5. Now, importantly here, no speech marks are to be written, because if I did put my variable in speech marks, then it would just print the name, it would print the word, the name, my variable. It would not print the variable itself. So, a variable is a way of giving a name that will reference, it's sort of like a keyword that references some piece of data or some piece of information that you will want to reference later. In this case, my variable is a number. In particular, my variable is an integer, because 5 is a whole number, there is no decimal. If I were to make it 5.0, then that would be a different story. I could say, let's call this my integer, because an integer is a whole number, 5 is a whole number, so my variable is my integer. What have I done? Oops. Right. Now, let's say I want something other than a number. Let's say my string. I haven't introduced what strings are, but if you've written a print or warn or error statement, you've worked with these when typing in the message. So a string is essentially how computers store words or characters or any kind of vocabulary. So my string might be something like, it's defined in speech marks, that's how it knows it's a string. My string might be something like apple. This is a string variable. Or I could make it banana, or I could make it banana. I could make it my word. I can get really creative. It's basically a string is text. So this is a string is text. So if I were to type print my string, again, no speech marks are needed here, because if I wrote this in speech marks, it would simply print the word my string instead of printing the value of my string, what we have set my string equal to here. If I click run, then it's going to print out my string. This is a string is text. So typing print my string, where we have set my string equal to this is identical to typing. This is identical to simply printing like this, because this is what my string has been set equal to. And indeed, if we run it, then the result is the same in both cases. Now, importantly, okay, the variables have been defined up here. If I were to type print my integer up here, it's blue underlined, and if I click run, then it's going to print nil. And it's going to, so nil is essentially a computer science term. It's what, to a computer, nil just means nothing, because when you're running this script, the script is going to take things one line at a time. So it works its way down your code from top to bottom. So the first thing it sees is print my integer, but it doesn't know what my integer is because we haven't set my integer to equal anything. This isn't even a variable. So it's going to print nil. And we move down and we get to local my integer equals 5. Now it knows what my integer is. So if we print my integer here, then it will print my integer, which is equal to 5. And that is how variables work. See? Now, you may have noticed that I call this my integer and my string because these two variables hold different types of values. They hold different what we call data types. My integer is an integer and my string is a string. You can just name this anything. It doesn't matter. It will have the same function. I'm naming that so it's easier to keep track of it. But importantly, no matter what you name it, even if I call my integer ABC, this is still an integer because that's what 5 is. 5 is an integer. If I call my string ert, it's still a string. And how can we prove this? Well, this is a bit more rigorous and formal than you necessarily need to start scripting, but we can use the statement type. So if I write type and then brackets, then I can pass some variable that I have in here. I can write it out, and it's going to give me what data type that variable holds. So this is all well and good, but it's not going to display it. How do we display something? Well, we can print it. So let's try print type of ABC. Now this looks a little scary, but just think about it for a second. And it's going to print it. Now here it gave me type number, which is technically correct because an integer is simply a type of number. If I type print type int, because an integer is just a whole number, essentially, that has no decimal values. If I put a decimal value here to specify it's 5.0, then this would be considered a float, but you don't need to know that right now. So if I print type of ert, as I have said, this is a string. So if I print type ert, it will print string, because the data type that this variable holds, its value, is a string. So ert is a variable holding the value. This is a string is text, and that value is a string, so ert has type string. There is also the specific function type of. Type is a basic Lua function. Lua is the language, the programming language, that ROBLOX's LUAU is based off of, which is very complicated jargon, but that is to say that type of is something you will only encounter in ROBLOX, basically, while type is something you will only encounter in ROBLOX or outside of ROBLOX. So type of will give you ROBLOX specific support. It will give you certain types that only ROBLOX has, while type will just give you the basic type that holds true in or outside of ROBLOX. If you don't understand that right now, that's okay. There's no need to worry about that, because that's a little formal and advanced and you're not going to need it early on. But later, make sure you do get a decent grasp on that, because it can help you down the line. So to summarize, A variable is a way of storing information. You type local, then the name of a variable, equals, and then what you want the value to be. That value will have a data type. It might be a number or a string or something else, and you're able to fetch the type of a variable with the statement type brackets, and then in the brackets you put the name of the variable. Or indeed, I could even print type 5, because again, print type of ABC is the same as print type of 5, because ABC is just a reference to the number 5. This is just shorthand for 5, essentially. It's a specific way of storing the number 5 somewhere. Yep, so that will print number also. And again, number, that's just a generalized way of saying integer or float. You do not need to know what a float is. Float and integers are just types of numbers. They're different, specific, computer sciencey ways of storing it. But the important thing is that now you know how to create variables. And you can even change them later on if you so desire. I have defined ABC up here to be 5. I could type instead ABC equals 3. You do not need to write local after you've already done this, but you can. And now it will still print the same thing, but if I print or type of, but if I print the variable itself here, it will now be 3 because I've changed what ABC references. ABC no longer equals 5, ABC now equals 3. And that's the most straightforward way of looking at it. So remember variables, because in essence, variables are everything, because anything can be a variable almost, depending on your programming language.